Yes, welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast. We continue the news review this morning with the Senators Kimani Wamatangi from Kiambu, Boni Halole from Kakamega, Kipruto Rakibu, Deputy Party Leader NC, and Karanja Kabage, political analyst and a businessman. Now, just before the break, of course, you were addressing a few things. I'll give you a few seconds to finalize before we go to...
What I was talking about is that in the power deal that is being crafted here, everything has to be understood. It has to flow from the Constitution. And the Constitution, the way the structure of that Constitution is today, I can tell you, is so difficult to prosecute coming up with executive orders and saying, oh, you can create a chief minister. A decree. There is no such a thing. That one will be quashed by a court yesterday because our Constitution creates 25 cabinet positions. That includes the president, the deputy president, and the attorney general, and 22 more cabinet ministers. That's what it is. If you want to change the Constitution, I want to refer my brothers to Article 255, 256, and 257. It's a challenge. It's a big, big challenge.
But it is still possible.
It is possible, but possible in the current narrative that we have. We are talking about Jubilee, and we are talking about NASA now. None of them, I can assure you, can command 3/4
of Parliament.
Two-thirds
in Parliament.
Majority. Impossible.
Okay.
So how do you change it?
You know, Fred, I wanted to come first to your aid because you see you notice very conspicuously. You asked direct questions about this cartoon that is there, but
and Senator Halwale
but they ran away from it.
I didn't have time.
Nobody wants to talk about it. So can we just put it in perspective?
Yes,
because that is the truth.
Do that.
The story that they want to run away from of this big crocodile and wearing its issue hat. And this, I'm sure you must have read a column that ran last week that was titled "The Story of the Alpha Male and the Three Flower Girls." It was in the Daily Nation. This cartoon depicts it correctly as it is, and that is known to every Kenyan, that the man who is the man of the moment in NASA is this crocodile here called Sender. And this is the man who carries all of these guys. And the reason why you have not had most of these fellows acknowledging actually what you are saying earlier, the reason why you saw there was some discomfort yesterday is because all these gentlemen know that the vote that NASA would command belongs to this man and revolves around this man. So all these gentlemen may write to where they are going with NASA, but this gentleman
on that particular issue, because I've seen somewhere on the papers that because the headlines yesterday had indicated that nomination was probably the way you would go in terms of trying to get your flag bearer. Now, after that, they seem to suggest that that is not possible because probably a nomination, the results of that nomination process are known already.
But further, you took away before you made my point.
No, I wanted to be a bit interactive.
Let me finish my point. My point was very, very simple, and what you bring on now is relevant. Actually, they were talking about having a nomination through which they will get their principles. And it tells you automatically, if you look at the polls of last week, the Ipsos poll, who got what percentage? Raila had 30%. Nobody had more than him. And you know, and this story they're trying to build that if you look at the numbers yesterday from IABC, 8 million and then 8.2 million, that they're very close. You know, we have a total of 19 million registered voters. 47%, what President Uhuru got of 19 million is 8.5 million. 30% of 19 million is 5.7 million. That is not called a close race. So they better put this story they're having behind themselves. The difference is 2 million. Now my last point is this on this photo that we have here, and Karanja Kabage put it very well. You know, and I want, this is my final point on this, but I want Kenyans really to ask themselves a serious question about this so-called deal. If you read as Karanja did all these points of national reconciliation as the first point, historical injustice, achieving equality, enhancing devolution, economic social rights, poverty and joblessness, all those stories told by this so-called deal. Now, let Kenyans tell us, from Kalonzo Musyoka, 30 years in government, Musalia Mudavadi, 30 years in government, Raila Odinga, 35 years in government. Moses Wetangula, more than 15 years in government. Now, what is this new discovery they have made out of all those issues? These are issues they have lived with, they have been with. There is no new deal.
Yes.
These are things, if they really were going to do, would have done those 30 years ago. Yes. I mean, this is simply what they say.
Senator Matani talks about some sense of discomfort yesterday in terms of who is a main man among the four. The cartoon seems to talk about the same issue. Now, you say you cannot go for nominations to pick the flag bearer. Is that the problem? That already you know that if at all you go for nominations, then the outcome is already known?
Well, who said? Really, we cannot stop Kenyans from imagining, because I think it is really their freedom to imagine, to think, to write what we have not done. There is no place that we've talked about the exercise of nomination or lack of it. What we've said in the document is very clear, that we have a number of ways of getting a flag bearer or a candidate for each of the elected positions.
Is nomination one of them?
One of them is consensus. Number 2 is an electoral college or a caucus. Number 3 is the possibility of going for a joint nomination at different levels, including that of the president. But we've not talked about it expressly.
So you've not ruled it out either?
We are not ruling it out, but it is one of the ways to be considered. If we can get it through consensus, so be it, the way we did it 2002.
Okay. So you're because I've just read it from one of the headlines, so you're disputing that you've denied that nominations will be used in terms of...
No, we've not said it, because you cannot tell us you have done 2 kilometers when we are just half a kilometer down the road. Okay. Number 2, I just want to remind the 2 gentlemen, if there is anything I know they share in common in the Kanu Manifesto of 1963, we had 3 problems. One of them was eradication of poverty. And when you look at eradication of poverty, you create wealth to eradicate poverty. You don't give people money to eradicate poverty. So I expected Mheshimiwa Kabage, who is a businessman, to understand this issue of saying that we are not thinking of how to create wealth is a narrative Jubilee is developing, and they want Kenyans to believe that we have no clear systems of eradicating poverty. Okay. Eradication of poverty is creation of wealth.
You know, there's something called measuring in minor things.
I have the right of respond. There are 2 questions which I must answer. The first one from you, the cartoon. Yes. I wish they had put the cartoon on the screen so that Kenyans could see. This cartoon is saying that is fait accompli that Raila will be the presidential candidate. That's what the cartoon is saying. Yes. For goodness sake, what is wrong with Raila being the presidential candidate?
Nothing.
There is absolutely nothing.
Just acknowledge
it. It is the same acknowledgement that was done by the current Uhuru when he was a project of Moi in 2002, when they were telling us that your candidate will be Kibaki. After all, because they were thinking we would be afraid putting Kibaki, a Kikuyu, against Uhuru, a Kikuyu. They wanted us to come with somebody else. So we gave them. Now, they are saying they would be, your candidate is Raila. What's wrong with it? Why are they saying this? They are saying because Kenyans are tired of political dynasties. Kenyans are tired of the Jaramogi and Kenyatta family fighting. If it should be the reason why we shall win, and we are going to make that decision when we shall be identifying the black bearer, for God's sake, we are going to give you Raila.
You have no apologies.
And we have no apologies for it. The second point you have asked is from my brother Kabage. Kabage, let me tell you, you have to be innovative. You are from the old school of building the economy. In the US, the economy has moved very fast because they allowed every state in the US to control its own economy and grow it, and the national government, the federal government, encouraged independent states to grow their own economies. Here in Kenya, the nearest we can go that is our counties. The moment we have identified in number 4, pillar number 4 of our manifesto, not our manifesto, of our coalition agreement, that we are going to strengthen devolution, we are saying that Nakuru, where you come from, has potential which has not been exploited. The NASA government will encourage Nakuru government to grow its potential through flagship projects so that the economy of Nakuru expands, and by extension, the economy of Kenya expands 47 times. Let me tell you, in conclusion, my brother, the reason why people don't see the hidden potential in devolution is because governors have used the first 5 years for purposes of self-development, self-aggrandizement, and so on. But if we had focused on flagship projects, for example, in Kakamega, the backbone of our economy is the sugar industry. If we had focused on the sugar industry, today, if Mumiasi was moving, we would be controlling 80% of the market of production of sugar in the East African region.
Gentlemen, if we can conclude this thread, we just concluded very simply that absolutely what these guys did yesterday was completely unnecessary. They could have just done what he said, announce Raila, and then we are on. I mean, you know, this is what it does. And that's why I say it is simply called majoring in minor things.
Okay. Gentlemen, allow us to move on to other headlines, because now we've spent so much time on this. We've actually spent almost an hour discussing the NASA deal. Jubilee was also out yesterday, and they were discussing other issues as well. They're working out the nomination rules. But they are facing the problem of defections, and that is captured on the front page of the Standard as well. Jubilee declares war on small defector parties, because even in the build-up towards the nomination, the primaries, the anxiety is building as well. Candidates are not sure whether or not they'll get a nomination, whether or not the primaries will be free and fair. Now, Jubilee is already experiencing quite a hemorrhage of politicians. They're moving to what is being referred to as smaller parties, Maendeleo, Chap Chap, PNU, and these other parties. Now, the chairman of the secretariat, Raphael Tuju, came out and said those people will be considered opposition. They'll be treated as opposition, because up until now, you defect, but you say, me, I'll still support Uhuru. Yes, that creates a problem.
Okay, first of all, I need to respond to my brother here about old school of doing developing an economy. And I want him to understand one thing. I understand the principles of how you generate an economy, all right? But one of the most fundamental principles of that is that you must have means of production. You must have what? Means of production. The first thing, you produce more and then you consume less. Now, my view is, and still remains, is that this opposition with the issue of how you're going to share must be debunked by Kenyans. But more importantly, I am a very strong supporter of devolution, because I believe, as my brother did here, that devolution is well managed. It is going to be a major response to how we develop and leapfrog this country's development. Now, coming to the issue of parties, I think the challenge the whole country faces from all the political divide is, first, how do you have integrity as far as nominations are concerned? Even this issue, we are hearing that they are going to have a boardroom discussion so that they can nominate Raila. Basically,
is changing the story.
Right? Listen, the whole issue, the problem is this: the fear as to how do you actually arrive at a candidate. The same thing, even at MCA level, woman rep level, senator level, governor level, is the same thing. So when you see people talking about, I am moving from this party to another party because I'm fearing it, we must address what is the mechanism that we're going to have that is credible, all right, that makes sure that everybody who participates in the election process or in the nomination process can say, I have lost, and it's fair and square. That is the biggest challenge. And that is why personally I'm saying IEBC, as provided for by the Constitution, would be a very good thing. As long as we can fund it, it would be a good mechanism of making sure that nomination process is seen to be fair and free, and therefore there will be no need for people to fear moving from this particular...
But the issue of these defections and the way the Jubilee is going to treat defectors, in fact the headline reads, you are either in or out.
Right.
So if you leave Jubilee, don't even talk about supporting Uhuru Kenyatta. Do you think that will work, that's the right way to approach this?
Can I clear there on Jubilee? I'm a member.
Yes.
One, when we gathered in Kasarani, we were very clear. We called everybody, all the parties, and we said this is what we are trying to do, form a coalition of the willing, willing, underline. And so we told parties, fold up so that we can have one outfit with one mind,
it's
going for one
coalition,
mission.
it's a party.
Now, listen, now once we did that, anybody who is in Jubilee and all those that were there, we did not and we have not barred anyone from exercising the democratic right of going to any party. We said, those that believe in us and what we are going to do, we will work together. We are going to ensure that once we arrive at the end of the tip, we will make sure by crook or cranny that we shall conduct nominations that are going to be credible, such that when you lose in the nomination, you know you have lost fair and square. That is our mission. But anybody who is going out and saying, I want to go and join that party, I want to go and join that party, there is no rule or law that we have put as Jubilee to bar anyone from moving. It is, somebody can move out of volition. Now, on whether you move out, you go and support the president, or you support, we are very clear. Our candidate is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta for the president. And anybody anywhere in this country, and I can tell you one thing, if you have any doubt in your mind now, there are people who are even now in NASA itself who will go and vote for an MP and vote for a governor, but for the president they will vote for Uhuru. I'll tell you clearly, if you may have doubts in your mind, numbers don't lie. If you look at the tally that was released by IEBC of the number they have registered now of almost 19 million voters, 47% of those people, I told you, if you did 47% of that, is more than about 8.9 million. That tells you that there are people who are even in those opposition strongholds themselves who will, by the record of what the president has done with Jubilee, will go and cast a ballot for him. So anyone going to any place, if you know that your presidential candidate, the person you want to identify with, is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Jubilee, go cast your vote.
Then why should
at the local level
even bother addressing this defector?
Now listen and listen to me. You know, our constitution is very clear, very, very clear in how you exercise your democratic right in choosing who is going to be your leader. It is there in the constitution. So once you take your ballot, you choose from all the candidates lined up. And that's what I would say this as loudly as I can. Our presidential candidate is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Anybody is free to vote for him. And I'm so sure, other than the politics of what we have had in this country, politics of tribalism.
So it was unnecessary for the party secretariat to come out and address the defectors because they do not matter as long as they support Uhuru Kenyatta.
You see, my friend, as we have said, which law in this country exists to say that Fred Idumuli cannot go and join that party? You can. What we are saying, we have formatted a party now that was built out of a coalition of people who can see things the way and believe in the things that we do as Jubilee. And can I make this as my last statement on this? You know, when you go to the poll to ask Kenyans, what is your opinion? And I want you to reread, and anybody who is listening to me this morning, what the papers reported 3 days ago. Why did they give Uhuru 47% of the polls, numbers polled? They underlined it in one single statement. On a question that was direct, why are you giving him 47%? They said, it is on account of his development record, period. Now,
coming back to the nomination headache, and it is not unique or exclusive to Jubilee. Now you've created this formation, NASA, which is a formation of different parties, which means that the nominations headache, you could actually be fronting different candidates for the same position from the same coalition. A case in point in Mombasa, even Senator Halwale here from Ford Kenya is running against an ODM governor. Now, doesn't that present another problem within the NASA deal, NASA formation?
Well, it's not a problem. We are going to look case by case basis. Areas where we know we are strong, like in Kakamega, you can have even all the 4 candidates being fielded in that particular county. because that is where Jubilee got less than 1%.
Yes.
So there is no way Jubilee can say they can win a governor seat. It's either Boni or any other candidate. So that is not a problem. In some areas we are going to use our wisdom and we learn from history to see how best to run the nomination exercise.
So you're going to zone off some areas for...
It's not zoning off. We are saying we are going to use our wisdom. And the wisdom will be, is it going to be prudent for us to put more than one candidate? Or are we going to have one candidate for NASA? And those are some of the issues that really we don't want to talk about them until we reach that particular stage.
It is not covered in this deal.
It's not covered here. The deal gives a framework. And I don't know why they agitated. When they were forming Jubilee in Kasarani, they were saying this is now about bringing the country together. When we say we are not folding the parties, we are forming a coalition of parties.
Yes.
They are saying now this is about tribe, this is about power sharing. What is the narrative? Are
you confident now that since you didn't go the Jubilee way of collapsing parties and forming one outfit, that this coalition deal would be a comfortable...
It makes a lot of sense because we are still growing parties. In Kenya today, we do not have really political entities where people subscribe to 100%. We are still nursing that particular process for people to feel comfortable. You know, the problem with parties and the multiplicity of parties in Kenya is informed by three things. Suspicion of the other tribe, intolerance of leaders, and convenience of individuals. So those are the three things. So we must nurse all those three things for us to reach an amicable solution. NASA provides that kind of fulcrum. And we are saying it's not about political entities alone. Even the labor union and other individuals in civil society are free to join NASA. And even the so-called small parties, where Jubilee is saying you are opposition, we are saying you are still welcome. Because in this country, it is 50% plus one that makes you the president. And that one may be that small party that you are ignoring.
Okay. Yeah. So, when you look at the situation in Jubilee, do you feel confident in what you come up with in NASA, that this is a better deal as compared to collapsing all parties and merging into one?
What is emerging from Jubilee is now real politics. There is politics and there is real politics. Real politics, Senator Matangi, dictated in 2002 that Kibaki's bosom friend, Jenga Karume, when he sensed that Uhuru was Moi's preferred candidate, Jenga Karume, who had been the major financer of the Democratic Party of Kibaki, decamped and joined Uhuru. That is real politics. I can assure you what you are headed for is a political meltdown, to the extent that even in your own backyard of Kiambu, you will hear movement when real politics takes over. My brother here, Kabake, is running for senator of Nakuru.
I'll answer you on that.
Yes, he's running for senator of Nakuru. Let me tell you, real politics will dictate that an ardent supporter of Jubilee like my brother here, when he senses that the chances of winning are not there, you will comfortably see him joining NASA. Can I give you an example? There is a man in the Senate called Senator Paul Njoroge. Whether he was lying or he was saying the truth, he told me he was circumcised with the president. And he told me him and the president, they are inseparable. And told me that he's a member. Can I?
You know,
and he told me,
I can allow you to say a lot, but
that he is in the kitchen cabinet of the president.
You can't go borrowing things from the...
When now real politics come in, relax. You don't own Project Uhuru. So when we describe the president, don't jump out of your skin.
To the rules of debate.
Okay, gentlemen.
Now,
let's go
can I conclude?
Yeah.
So now, when Paul Njoroge sensed that his fate was sealed as a possible loser, he decamped from Kanu.
To Kanu.
I mean, he decamped to Kanu from Jubilee. These things are going to happen. Now, talking about our own coalition, NASA, so that I don't look like I'm an expert. Please, the media, do not run ahead of us. Wait and report on our announcements. We have told you that in our coalition agreement, we have indicated a particular article for nominations, and we have built 4 scenarios that we are going to use. When we come out of the retreat, as the technical committee of NASA and the National Coordination Committee will come out with not only the announcement on the flag bearer, but we shall also announce on the nomination process. What Senator Kirwa has said is true. We will map out the country through common sense and say we have counties that are battleground and counties that are stronghold. In a stronghold county, it means even if 4 NASA candidates competed against each other, the outcome will still be another win. That is a stronghold. But in battleground, let me give you an example of his own county. Trans Nzoia is a battleground county. When we go to Trans Nzoia, if we compete, for example, Fort Kenya against ANC, Fort Kenya has got Ndiema for senator and ANC has got Kirwa. Both can lose because in that battleground, Jubilee controls 70,000 voters and NASA controls 126,000 voters. So if you don't calculate well, Jubilee can...
So you have to adopt a different method when
a different method in that place. And in that place, we can, for argument's sake, I want the public to follow us, not this confusion of Jubilee. We can, for argument's sake, if Fort Kenya is fielding a strong candidate for governor, we can comfortably allow Fort Kenya to compete with Jubilee on the position of governor and allow ANC to compete with Jubilee on the position of senator. That is negotiated democracy.
Let me first of all respond to my brother.
Yes, I've finished.
And I know he's very good at stretching imagination. Where he's saying that the real politics, when it takes place in Nakuru, I am likely to go to NASA. Please, keep dreaming. I am in Jubilee, and Nakuru is a Jubilee territory. So there is no chance. Just like my brother Kilo has said, that Kakamega, as an example, the bullfighter next to me, he wants to fight with Oparanya, the governor, and he's saying that is the territory of what?
Stronghold.
Of a stronghold of NASA. No problem. Nakuru is similarly the same. We do not have any chance of NASA even having any chance as far as Nakuru is concerned. So just keep that.
So however many Jubilee affiliated parties,
it doesn't matter, it's going to be a Jubilee candidate. But the other thing I want to tell you, Joroge is whom he's quoting, Senator Joroge whom he's quoting, he did not jump ship from Jubilee to Kanu because he was being challenged. He was going to win any nomination. Please, just forget that issue. Don't kid yourself.
What happened?
Okay. He made a determination that was politically convenient to him. But for you, you are saying he jumped ship because of geopolitics, which is not the case.
Now, as you're on that issue,
sometimes it's
already the issue of party hopping is already in court.
Yes,
governors have moved to court, and it's part of the headlines this morning. And given the history, the recent history of our judiciary, it could just be reversed. Yes, it could happen. What does that change the game? Because now people will approach the nominations knowing that yes, there's still a chance. If I lose, I'll jump ship.
Certainly, that will change the game.
Yes, Bonakil.
Well, it tells you one thing, that we need more democracy in political parties and the clearer processes of going through the nomination exercise. And people are worried of losing unfairly. And we hope the court also is going to be part of the growth of democracy by ensuring that they don't make the mistake of trying to annul everything that Parliament has passed, because this party hopping is a safeguard also to ensure that people are committed to political entities. Otherwise, if you allow somebody, you lose here, you go to the other place, we are encouraging bad manners. And bad manners should not be part of our politics.
Yes.
Yes, I think I certainly share in that view, because we must have an end to the process, and I think we also have to introduce political maturity in our politics, whereby you know, you have to get to a point whereby you say you have lost, but the underlying necessity that is of absolute importance is lose fairly. Lose fairly in a nomination process. And what has hitherto in the past encouraged party hopping
that was
is
because
if you remember those days of Mulolongo, when out here in Limuru or even in Nakuru, or where, you know, people are being told to queue, and a phone call would be made and say and ask, you know, wapi Mlolongo ya Kabage, unasikia ati ndio ya watu 5 na ya fulani iko na watu 20, Kabage ndio mshindi. So those days and that culture is what promoted party hopping. If we can adhere to the rules now, and ensure that party nominations are free and fair.
And if that means you're also not guaranteed of a fair primaries.
You know why I use the word if, and I'll use it again now, because what we have made is a commitment that is what we shall do. And people have got to live to those commitments, all of us. For us in Jubilee, we are committed to that cause. That's even what you find, even today, we have persisted to say to IABC that what we will be looking for is ways of funding you, but the Constitution is clear on what you should do as an institution of this state to ensure that there are free and fair elections, even at the nomination level. And that's provided for.
Gentlemen, allow me to stay with Senator Matangi for a while, with what you're saying.
Please.
Because on page 26 of the Daily Nation, we have a story about you. 4 roll-up sleeves to dislodge man of the tanks. They're referring to Matangi. Yes.
I had not
and just within Jubilee, you have 4 rivals already. That means going to the primaries, you'll be 5 candidates, all vying for the same
position.
One ticket, one Jubilee ticket. Yes,
absolutely.
This is a problem.
No. Why? Why is it a problem?
Are you assured? Are you guaranteed of a fair process?
The only assurance that I have as a candidate of Jubilee in Kiambu County is the record of what I've done. And look at that story and what it tells.
Are you sure it's your record that will guarantee you a Jubilee ticket?
Absolutely. It is my record.
Issue within the party?
It is my record. It is the work that I have done for the people of Kiambu, both in the Senate, both in the county, and at national level. That is the record that will be used to
guarantee you election. That could guarantee you election at the August.
Absolutely not.
August
you know, 8th. Let me tell you.
But what about the nomination?
Let me tell you about what happens, and especially in my own county of Kiambu. I have absolute faith in the voters of my county. You know, when I got elected in the first place, and I went through a nomination,
Senator, I think we're missing a point here.
No, I'm not missing any point. I'm not missing any point.
It's an process.
You have intercepted before I made my point. My point is this. Listen to me, my friend Fred. Listen. When I first got elected into the Senate, I was not a senator. I was not a member of parliament. I had no influence at all. I was a small village boy who grew up in the county working for the people of Kiambu. They gave me the name of Matangi for mobilizing and lifting the lives of people and doing the things that it. And they brought me to Senate. And I didn't have, nobody made a phone call to the people of Kiambu to tell them that elect that village boy. No. It is that record that brought me here. And that record has taken me places.
The question,
from the time I started working. So there is no change in that. Even now, if you go to the county of Kiambu, people will tell you, we have seen this man in the Senate. He has been making laws and legislation that help and empower devolution and the people of Kiambu. He goes and stands and talks for the people of Kiambu. And that is the record. That is the record.
I think the issue here, and this is goes to the very core of democracy of any country. In our constitution and our laws, political parties are very central as far as the management of the politics of the country is concerned. And that's why it is important that we bring hygiene and we bring the internal democracy within the political parties. Why is that so important? For example, if you take the case of Mheshimiwa Matangi as a senator, he has told you he came to power because the people believed in him.
Yes.
And he is saying right now categorically that my record speaks for itself, and I believe if the elections are free and fair, I will be, yes, and that's why he has used the word if. He says, I can be able to handle this, even if you add more five more people, you still can be able to handle
the process is correct.
And it's really important, and even my brother here should be very careful. When we talk about political parties, as the beginning of our political process is the political parties. That's how we elect leaders. Now, it is important and imperative, and that's why for me I would say, and please, when you are in Parliament, let us try to make sure that IEBC is not going to have a choice as to the nomination, conducting of nomination of parties, because the Constitution is very clear that parties can go to the IEBC, and IEBC cannot say no. What they can say no is that we cannot fund it, you fund it. And that to me is most important, because once we have proper nominations, I can assure you, we won't even be having this party hopping business. It is not going to happen. And I believe, that it is going to come to a time, maybe in 2022, that we're going to have two parties, no more than two parties.
But even in Kabage, you can see that there will be problems. I anticipate issues.
I anticipate, and I can tell you that I've been a victim, so I know what I'm talking about. Listen.
So the kind of confidence Wamatangi is talking about is not even guaranteed.
No, let me tell you. Wamatangi, I use the word if.
Yes.
And if you look the word if, it means if all conditions are the same, there is no problem. And I can tell you for a fact, and for finally, even the reason why we have these shenanigans of party hopping across the country and across the party range is because of lack of transparency and accountability as far as issues of nominations are concerned. We must request the political leaderships to make sure that please leave the people to make a determination. If Kawale, for example, is nominated by NASA, assuming that's going to be the NASA in the Kakamega, let there not be interference saying, oh no, the current governor is this and that and that. Wananchi will determine whether they want him
or the other person.
And believe you, if we do that, a lot of things are going to be.
Kabage, remember you are a lawyer.
Yes.
The question from Indimuli was, now that the matter is in court, what do we have to say?
Good.
Can I? What do we have to say? I am very excited, Indimuli, about that court process. Because until you remove chapter 4 of the Constitution, then candidates have got political rights and candidates have rights of who to associate with. So Jubilee that attempts to take away that right to choose your political party by forcing you that you must be in this monolith is challenged by the Constitution. Jubilee that tells you you cannot associate with the president when you are in a small party, you are taking away the provision of the Constitution on the freedom of association. So I'm waiting to see the ruling. Now, to come to the issue of IEBC, you brought it in yourself. You had not floated it. IEBC, it is now attempting, by invitation by Jubilee, to wade into political management of nominations, internal nominations by political parties. You must know that the same Constitution has created the political parties tribunal, which has got the constitutional mandate of presiding over disputes within political parties. Please be the lawyer who you are and read the Constitution. Finally, to Wamatangi. Wamatangi, this leap of faith that you have in Jubilee, I warn you. You come from Kiambu, and it is in Kiambu where Moses Kuria was protected by the president to the extent that when there was supposed to be nomination, he ended up being selected. Be sure that you are on the right side of the president. If you will not win being selected, you will not be on the ballot. I tell you.
I can assure you. I only be on the right side of the president. And you can also take this and also on the right side of the president.